Hi everybody, this is Sufia and this is week 59, and this week we're talking about tea expectations. So I want to talk about this subject from the angle of emotional expectations that we had before our partner started tea, and just what thoughts were going through my head before that happened, and kind of how that's turned out now that my partner's been on tea for 6 months. So I just want to say before I get started that this has actually been a really hard video for me to make because I've had a hard time putting my thoughts together in the way that I would like to talk about them, and also because this is something that we are actually really working with in a big way in our relationship, really dealing with what changes have happened and what that means for our relationship and what that means for our interaction, and how we're interpreting those changes individually and that kind of thing. So this is some big emotional work for us right now. And I also have some hesitance around this subject because I don't live in a black and white world. I really like to inhabit the gray space and the space in between things, and I recognize that people's stories are very nuanced, and my hesitation with this has been that I feel like talking about expectations and whether they've come true or not can end up being kind of black and white, and I fear that I won't put things in a way that's nuanced enough and that I'll paint a picture that's really black and white, and I don't want to do that. So please know that I guess that's just kind of the lens that I'm working with right now. So when I've been thinking about expectations and what I expected to happen with my partner in starting tea, I really thought a lot about how our perceptions are shaped by what we see in the community that we are around. So when Mel started talking about taking tea and transitioning, I joined some different online groups, and I joined different Facebook groups and started reading as much as I could, and watching videos like this and that kind of thing. And I recognized so basically my community ended up being this online community of people that I don't actually personally know, and that I don't really talk to on a daily basis or talk to in any sort of real-time way outside of what they post online. And so I feel that provides a really limited view, and you never know what's happening behind the camera, you never know what's happening, what array of emotions are happening or experiences are happening outside of that moment that's being talked about on Facebook or whatever. And so when I was reading these different things and watching these different videos, I read a lot about folks who were transitioning having these this testosterone rage and anger issues, and not being able to control themselves sexually, and so that actually kind of became the main things. Those became the main things that I was worried about happening with Mel, and basically that Mel will become someone that I didn't know, some new person in a way, because what I so value about my partner is their sweetness and consideration and consciousness in interaction, and just care with which they move through the world. And I was afraid that was all going to disappear. So Mel has been on tea for almost 6 months now. At the beginning of September, it'll be 6 months. And so if I'm thinking about trying to answer this in a simple kind of way, answering the questions, did my expectations of Mel changing in those specific ways hold up? The simple answer is no. But it isn't simple. Like I said, it's much more nuanced. So changes have definitely happened. And Mel does seem to be different to me in certain ways, but ultimately they're still the same person. And I think that this journey is a lot about learning how to work with those differences, both for Mel to work with those differences, and then for me to work with them as well. And I understand that can get really complicated really quickly, and even right now I'm wanting to say so many things But I'm going to try to stay focused and keep it really kind of concise. So I guess with the main things that I was concerned about with like this rage happening with Mel, simply put, no, that has not happened. What has happened is there are changes in Mel's voice, understandably. So Mel's voice is a lot deeper now. And what that means sometimes is that things can come out sounding sharper or angry sounding. But, you know, we've talked a lot about that because that's come up multiple times for us, where in some situation I feel like, why are you so mad right now all of a sudden, and why are you speaking to me that way? And we talk about it, and that's not Mel's intention at all. And so, you know, in those kind of situations, I'm recognizing that I have my own sensitivities. I have my own preconceived notion of what Mel sounds like, and now that is different. And so I'm working with recognizing that, you know, I have to shift that a little bit. I have to relearn what intonation sounds like and what, you know, what emphasis Mel's putting on different things means in their voice. And I recognize that I also am a very sensitive person. And so this very quiet, super soft-spoken, introverted person speaking up in maybe a little bit louder or gruffer way is new to me, and I'm having to recognize that my own sensitivities are playing into our interaction with that as well. So none of that is right or wrong or black and white or okay or not okay. It's just something that we are working with. As far as anger issues go, simple answer again, no, Mel does not have anger issues. I would say that Mel is much more expressive of emotion in the moment, which I think is actually a really beautiful thing for them because, you know, Mel is kind of someone who I think, generally speaking, tends to bottle up emotion and say, you know, I can deal with this on my own. I don't need to express it or talk through it and that kind of thing. So it's been great for Mel to express something in the moment, you know, hey, this is not okay with me, or I don't feel okay about this right now, and then we can deal with it, which is a really great thing. And along with that, I would say, you know, there are not anger issues, but what I would say is happening is because transition does require so much emotional work in dealing with, you know, the reasons why one wants to transition and dealing with the reasons or just the things that come up with it, emotional work is all up on the table right now. And so Mel's doing the work of dealing with these long-standing past abuses from, you know, folks in their past. And so as emotions come up around that, Mel's dealing with that right now. So no, they're not anger issues. And long buried anger concerns, I guess, are coming up. And so Mel's not angry or mad at me, but there are things that have needed to come up for a long time that now there's space to do that. And the reasons why, I don't know. Is it because there's other things happening, and so why not bring these up as well? Or is it because, you know, the door is kind of open for emotional work? I don't know exactly the reasons why, but it's happening, which I think is actually a great thing. And as far as, you know, sexual differences and the whole idea or that expectation of not being able to control yourself sexually, that is not happening. It's never been an issue of being able to control desire, but desire has definitely increased. And so we are working with, you know, just sort of our flow of how we're intimate and when we're intimate and when our desires rise. And, you know, things used to be different. And now, you know, now Mel is much more desirous, which is actually a great thing. And again, you know, I've been thinking a lot about the reasons why. And, you know, is this simply a hormone is changing sex drive? Maybe. I think it actually has a lot more to do with increased confidence and comfort level in their body, and just kind of with physical changes happening, space being created to be in touch with their body and be in touch with and more connected to loving their body. So, which again is a beautiful thing. So in this whole process of looking at expectations, and Mel's really doing the work of welcoming the emotional changes as they come and sorting through how these physiological changes and biological changes are bumping up against society's expectations of masculinity. And that brings up a lot, because both of us have had some really negative interactions with male-bodied people in the past. And so how do you handle, or how do you carefully hold, these new things that are happening, a man's voice coming out of Mel's body, I guess, I don't know, my brain's kind of running away with me, but I'm just wanting to say that, Mel is doing a lot of work on their end as far as looking at everything. And I think you can get to the point of overlooking at things and overanalyzing things, but I do think it's really important to look at how these changes affect your partner. And that's something I'm really grateful that Mel is doing, because I don't know that I could go through a transition with everybody. I don't know that this is something that I could do with somebody who wasn't super self-aware already, and someone who was super willing to do the required emotional work. And so then on my end, in looking at expectations, I'm really doing the work around not making Mel every guy I've dated in the past, and not placing my past hurts and frustrations on some new action of Mel's. So when I hear a different, tone of voice, or when I see Mel's attention span kind of shorten or something, and I'm like, why aren't you paying attention to me all of a sudden? Little things like that, I'm not taking it and saying, you are intentionally being disrespectful, or, you're just like that guy I dated in the past who was this, this, and this. Because that's not fair to Mel at all. Mel is still who they are and who they've always been, and there are these other changes that are happening, which is what makes it so complicated. So I guess in thinking about expectations and what can change, and especially around mood and emotional changes, I just feel that it's really important to point out that, it is important to expect new behaviors. It also is important to expect your partner to still be your partner, this person that you love and care about. And these new behaviors are never an excuse to be unkind or mean or abusive by any means. And that, if a partner is being abusive, it doesn't mean that it's because of T. It could be just because they're being abusive. And that's really important to look at. So I know this is kind of a scattered video, and there's so much more that I want to go into, but since this is something that we're currently working on, it's hard for me to have clear thoughts or emotions about it, because I would say that we've had some really hard conversations lately about, me being hurt in a situation because of something I feel Mel is saying differently or doing differently, and Mel feeling misunderstood by me because, something new is happening for them, and they're still trying to work through what it is, and they're not meaning anything bad by it. So there's all that. Feel free to comment or send me a message, or if you are part of the FTM Sweethearts Facebook group, or find me on Facebook, you can private message me. I'm happy to talk about this more. And, if you have specific questions or comments or concerns about things that you're seeing with your partner, I'm happy to talk about it, and we can go from there. So anyway, I hope everybody has a great week, and see you later. Bye.